Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Dash Sisters podcast. You're here again. We're here again. And today we have someone real special with us.
Woo! Yeah. We have someone with us who I've known since 2000, I want to say 3 or 4. And Maithili has heard about since 2007 when we first met.
That's
And then
true.
finally met last year, I think 2024. And so this is a very special guest, someone we've known for a very, very long time. And personally for me, this is she's like my sister from a different mister. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't keep that. That's a pathetic way to introduce someone. But fortunately, she's known me for so long that she'll excuse it. Introducing to you, ladies and gentlemen, our lovely, lovely friend, Bhuvaneshwari. Hi, Bhuvana.
Hi. Hi, Maithili.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hey.
How are you
Wow.
doing? Where are you tuning in from? Tell us what's happening. What's your art and all in the background?
Yeah, I am in my studio. I have a ceramic studio, so that's where I'm talking to you guys from.
What part of the world is your studio in? Where are you?
I'm from Madikeri in South India. There's Karnataka, and in Karnataka we fall under the Western Ghats. So there's a place called Coorg. It's a hill station. I think most of them know Madikeri as Coorg. That's like the colonial name. And Madikeri is like a small town in Kodagu. It's like a hill station. So that's where I'm talking to you guys from.
I know you're both from there and you both have a lot of friendship and you guys met when you were 7 years old. I want to hear a little bit about that because I've heard about you obviously since I was like 10 or 11, but I know that this is the first big friendship of Gauri's life. So let me hear it.
Gauri, you want to start?
The day I met Buona is seared in my
Okay.
mind. And it was in third grade classroom. I just joined this new school that Buona was kind of already ruling. Okay, she'd been there since kindergarten, so she knew everybody. She was so well connected.
We were only like 7 kids. So yeah, I knew everybody.
That's like 6 more kids than I knew. so So I was like, okay, whatever. And I remember she and our other friend, they were sitting in the front desk and I was sitting right behind them. And this was just classes about to start. And then Buona like flips her hair and turns back and she says, "Do you know how to make a paper boat?" And I didn't. Okay. Full panic. First day of, third grade in a new school, and I don't know how to make a paper boat. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I came home that evening and I was like, Ma, I don't know how to make a paper boat. And I'm crying because I'm like so humiliated. And so then the next day I was like, I learned. And then I was like, Bona, I know how to make a paper boat. And she was like, okay. And then we became friends.
Oh, that's
Oh,
a cute symbol. The paper boat
Uh,
beginning. Do you remember that, Puna?
I have no memory of that. I think we were in the third grade. Yeah, third grade, Allah. Yeah. So she just came and she had a couple of friends from her old school who also moved to the same school. And she was talking to a couple of guys, and I'm like, who's this girl who knows everybody who's come in? She knows all the new kids. And she's like, oh, okay. Let me be friends. Like, do you know how to make a paper boat? That's probably how it came.
yeah.
Because we were all like into like making paper crafts, and that was like the reason we went to school.
Yeah. Yeah, for our
Wow.
listeners, please, you have to understand, we are the generation that put Fevicol on our hands in the first period and then waited for it to dry.
Yes.
We used to have all these, skein threads or whatever that we would put in our exam clipboards and make friendship braids rapidly throughout classrooms.
Oh.
Some poor math teachers trying to teach us how to do 1+1. We're like, no, no, friendship bend. So yeah, that's how we started. Over the years, kind of what happened was that we were just like friends who would meet on the weekends and of course school, but other than that, weekends. And like we had these like miniature kitchen sets.
So we like when we were in school, it was mandatory for each of us to, weekend, either I'm in Gauri's house or Gauri's in my house.
And
So here's the
it
thing.
was just the two of you at all times.
Yes, yes.
It wasn't like a bunch, it was the two of you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I were to go to her house, we would do this. She had this CD player where she had like these, what's her name? Shubha Mutkal songs.
Shubha Mudgal, yeah.
Oh, we used to, do like a choreography and, not to show it to anybody, but just for the sake, we are cool, how to dance, the lyrics to this song. And we had this obsession with miniature kitchen sets where we would actually cook food. So we made it a I think on the weekends, I think your mom would go to sleep or she would like, be in her reading room or something. And we are like, that's it. Raid the kitchen, find anything. Like we actually like lit here and actually made stuff on it. Like
I mean, in retrospect, it was a little bit of like method behavior because we had one candle and then on that candle we'd hold a spoon
Oh,
and cook like mini chapatis on it.
that's so cute.
And of course, then I came to boarding school, and that was a bit of like physical separation for years. I think for about like
Yeah.
8 years, 9 years after that,
mhm.
we were not living in the same town.
Was that
Um,
kind of a big deal, the separation, or we were too young to realize that it was
I have
anything?
a story for this. So I was like, Gauri, how can you leave me and go to a boarding school? I was really upset because like we were like really close and everybody knew. Okay, Gauri Bhuvana, like everybody knew the both of us, like we were constantly with each other. And the minute she told me she's going to boarding school, like there was a void. I'm like, oh shit, like
Mm.
what am I going to do? Like she's like, Bhuvana, we have a separate journeys. Like we have to find our own path. That's what Gauri told me, and I still remember, and that made a lot of sense. I don't know where that came from. I don't know, you were like 8, 9 years old.
Was she like plotting this whole like I want to go to boarding school for a year or two, or did it just happen like that summer or something?
Think at some point it just happened, and I think over the summer break she just broke the news to me saying, again in the midst of all this cooking and stuff, I'm like, but we're having such a good time. How can you do this to me? Like she's just
Oh,
leaving. Like, no, Gauri, like, what am I going to do? She's like, At some point, I have to leave Bhuvana. Like, you have to figure out your own path." On those terms, she said something. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. That's true.
that is so
oh my
wise for like a 10-year-old. That is so much wisdom.
I don't remember all this random gyan that I'm dropping unsolicited. I don't remember.
I'm like, that was wise. I needed that. She has her thing, I'll have my thing, and we can meet over the summer break and we can do like it'll be more fun then. So she would tell
Yeah.
me the boarding school story. That's where I'm like, Maitri, who's this Maitri?
Every freaking summer. I knew Gary would go back and she'd have her own other world of friendship. I'm like, so who is this Bua now?
She always talks about Maitli. They have this music band together and they sing. And I'm like, we wrote a poem in third grade. Okay. But
It's not the same thing, Buna. It's not the same
Maitli
thing.
is actually singing with this girl, but we wrote poems together.
I'm literally dying.
But I guess like also it's interesting for me to see like her friendship with you and what you guys did together is so different from what me and her did. I guess Kari and I were like maybe more musical and stuff, and you guys seem to be very like craftsy, very artsy. And I don't know if that's because of where you are in the world and where, your homes are located. But yeah, I want to hear a little bit about that artistic journey. And I know Kari has some interesting thoughts on that and how those separate paths actually, went those ways.
So there was a point, I think, where we kind of outgrew the kitchen set playing, and she went to boarding school and she was a different person. I mean, we all had our exposures to different things, and I was leaning more into art because that's what I've always wanted to do. We started like, spending our summers like making stuff and doing like garage sales and, like pop-ups and trying to figure out like, how we could work when we were away from each other. And yeah, I mean, it was like an on and off thing,
Mm.
but whenever we met, it was so exciting. Like, oh, Gauri, you remember the time when you arranged my beads? Yeah.
Maitri,
So,
I have to say this. So
mhm.
a lot of our dynamic is Buona is like the artistic, you know how like for example painters they don't want their palette cleaned like the with the paintbrush and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that.
Because it's got that
Well,
beautiful color in there. Yeah.
correct, and they have this very specific color blend, and you're like, please don't mess with it or whatever. Cut to me, who's like type A with this stuff, it's like clean, everything has to be clean, whatever. So Bona had this like massive box of maybe like 7,000,000 beads, okay? Everything's mixed, shape, color, size, it's all mixed. It's just one treasure trove
Really?
of beads. One day I'm like, let's go. Okay. So I've sat and separated all the beads and I'm yelling at her, Bona, you're like, why are you? Everything is mixed. What are you doing? All this stuff I'm doing. And I've sat and organized it. Bona looks at it and then I think I don't know if it's still like that. It's
It's still like
unused because
have it. It's still in those boxes. I've never touched
it's like yeah, because for
You've
her,
given.
arty kind of brain space, if it's too organized, it's unusable. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I don't know. She put
Wow.
so much effort into like putting all the beads in the box. I feel like I'll mess it up, and I was so scared to use it, and I've just left it there and never touched the bead since. So,
Also, she was
Yeah.
yelling at you, so I get it.
like, I function in a different way. If I know where things are, it might seem like a chaotic mess to a third person, but for me, I know where things are, and I like to leave them there because I can go back. And if it's like clean and kept it in place, I'm like, oh, it looks so nice. I don't want to mess with it. So if it's a mess, I'm like, yeah, it's usable.
Do you think like a lot of our friendship, and really this is such a Gauri's and auntie kind of moment, but it came because it was, and I think Maitli for us also it's the same thing, which is that it came because it was an analog era. If you wanted to spend time, you had to do something. So what do you
Uh-huh.
do? And then you're
Mhm.
a kid. You have nothing with you. You don't have money, and you have to kind of go to some cool place or whatever. So yeah, so we would take like raw guava, and then just rub it against the cement and made guava chutney. You had to do something.
That's
You
so
had to
cute.
do
Yeah.
something with what you had. And so for us, what we had was like my dad had a stationery store. Buona used to go to art classes, so she had every bloody color you could think of in the world. And so we became crafty. That's it, because you
Yeah,
just
Mhm.
there was nothing else to do.
that's
And
true.
so in retrospect, we see now our juniors, like the younger kids here in town, and they go on road trips, and we're like, what? Who's giving you
Get
like
money
money and vehicle?
Huh.
and they go on road trips now.
Yeah, which is insane to us because our road trip was from her house to my house to her house to my
Oh,
house. That
or
was it.
Raja Seat is this park that we have near Gauri's house, and it was
Mm.
walkable. So we had a ritual every time we meet. So there was this lady, she sold puffed rice, like a spiced up puffed
Uh-huh.
rice. So we would just walk there. There was a children's park there. So we just go there, pick up the puffed rice, sit on top of like a slide or something, and just chit chat and look around, see
Yeah.
kids playing, and you know, talk about them. That's what we did.
We were all growing up in non-digital spaces, and each time we've grown up in spaces that are not cities.
That's true.
Mhm.
So you're very like connected to the surrounding around you,
Yeah.
and you're almost in a non-bad way, of course, forced to deal with it, and only that. You're not making TikToks with your girlfriends. You're
Yep.
building things with your girlfriends, which is such a different era.
Mhm.
Madikeri being a small town, there's very little kids could do. But
Mhm.
we had so much stuff. Like we had like trees, and we played with seeds and sticks and leaves, and like we just took
Mm.
what was around us and we tried to make something and take something out of it. Probably even in school, like our school is so beautiful now that I think about it. We
Yeah.
had such a nice school. It was literally like a forest.
When you spent time and when you competed with each other, it wasn't like, look at my Nike shoes or whatever. It was, see how many
Mm.
pine cones I have, see how many dogs are my friends.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow. That's
brings a memory. Gauri, do you remember the time you got nail polish and painted nails of all the dogs in the school campus?
That memory
oh,
is
that's
tattooed in my
so weird.
brain. But
It's
Bona, I want to ask you. We grew up in this sort of very like natural space, and yes, we had all these common interests, but also like you spent a lot of your time, even though we were arty and craftsy or whatever, you spent a lot of time doing that in a very dedicated kind of way. Because I remember you used to go to these art classes, and it was always such a thing like, oh, Bona's show is there. So then, because the art teacher would put all the students thing for a show, and then we'd all go and see. I'm like, my friend made that. It was all such a almost professional kind of deal. How did that start? Was it like did it start as a hobby? Did it start with intention? What was that story
I
like?
think I was really young. I was in kindergarten, probably, and my parents were looking to put me in some activity. You know how parents are. They're like, "Oh, we can. This kid is going to like." I was like very destructive as a child. I was a very curious child. I was not destructive. I was very curious, and unknowingly, I would like start mixing up stuff in the house, like mix powder with moisturizer and make a concoction out of it. And that was very like they wanted to keep me occupied in a very positive way. So they were like, huh, maybe we should put her to art class. So I would go there, like as far as I remember, every Saturday, Sunday, I had drawing class. Exams, I had drawing class. I didn't care. That was like a getaway for me. I had like a whole group of friends there, and all from different ages. And I could see people paint, and all those art materials just drove me mad. So every week we would like come up with like a subject and we would paint that over the weekend. And I think that kind of drew me more into like painting. It gave me the freedom to do what I want. It was not like structured. He would just let us do what we want. It was not like draw a line and then color within the lines. No, it was more like you come up with the idea. More than teaching art, he taught us how to think. Taught us how to like look around, see things that probably are right in front of you, but you don't actually see or notice. That kind of, gave a very nice foundation to my art, interest. I always knew I wanted to do something in art. That never changed. Like I'm going to study, but I'm going to end up doing art. Like I'm going to study art. That's what I thought I wanted. Although like certain things change, I've always grown up doing painting, but then I kind of went to college and explored a lot of mediums. Like college gave me an opportunity to, try out different mediums. And then I found like clay and then I got into ceramics. Now,
What was that like? You go from something like painting, a completely different medium. You move to something so tactile like clay.
that's, yeah.
What's that like? Like what's your headspace when
It,
that's happening?
so, if you guys, have you guys worked with clay? A
little
little
bit.
bit. You should come here and do pottery with me.
I
Like
want
it,
to, yes.
it's so like I mean it's very addictive in a very positive way. Like you can't stop. Like once you just sit on the wheel and you touch the clay, you just like sucked in. You kind of get drawn into it. So the first time I tried sculpting was as a secondary subject in college. I come from a painting background, so I thought, okay, I should study painting. So once I got into like the technical part of painting, I was kind of enjoying it. But we also had these workshops in the other departments where we could go and explore. So I ended up doing a lot of workshops, and clay was something that drew me in. Like I got stuck. Like I couldn't stop. Like Gauri said, it's very tactile. Like I could control better when like I could work with clay. As for painting, like once you make a stroke, there's no going back. You have to be very decisive. So with clay, I could make mistakes and it would embrace my mistakes and I could, correct it and redo it and keep doing it again and again. It's like clay is very forgiving. And it teaches you a lot, Yeah. So there's a lot of like deeper things that I discovered once I started working with clay. Like, you put so much into making like a piece and then when you bake it, it just breaks. So how do you deal with that emotion? I was taught to break my first set of really good stuff in the place where I study clay. They're like, learn detachment. This is going to help you. Like, don't get attached to your work. At one point, you're going to either sell it or you're going to break it. So instead of like, moping over what you've lost, make another one. That's that practice. So keep making. And there'll be a point where you'll be happy with the work. Okay, you're happy, but you can't get stuck with that. You have to move on, make a better work. So that's the kind of thing clay taught me, and it's just amazing. Like even now, I don't know anything about clay. Every day I learn something new. Every day. And it's so exciting. It's like opening like a parcel. Somebody sent you a gift and you're just opening it. You don't know what's in it. So we do a lot of glaze tests, the color testing. I make my own colors. So every time I open the kiln, there's like a new color. I'm like, oh yay, it's so nice. Or oh no, I shouldn't have done that. So it's like a learning curve. It's very exciting for me. Like there's no limit, there's no end to learning about the materials and stuff. So that's the kind of excitement I like, and clay has it for me.
That's so well said. Like I love how you say clay is forgiving. Like no one would say that, I think. That's such a you don't think about clay with a personality. So that's like it's very fun to hear.
Maitli,
Um
do we have
yeah,
an episode title?
clay is forgiving?
Clay is forgiving. I don't
I
know. I
love
think
it.
it's in the running.
I think so. And now you have like a little studio in your hometown, and
Yes.
we'd love to hear a little bit about that because I know Gary had told me earlier, like most people, young artists, they'll move to the cities and start their world there, start their businesses there. But unlike everybody else, you did like the opposite thing, and you've come back home and you've set up studio there. So what was that about, and how do you feel now that you've set it up? How long has it been?
When I was in college, so I did my bachelor degree in painting, which was in Bangalore. That's when I found ceramics. So I wanted to do my master's in ceramics. So I went to Shantiniketan, which is in Kolkata, which is like the northern part of India. So there I had amazing lecturers who, encouraged me to learn. And then after a point, I realized you can do ceramics anywhere as long as you know where to get the materials from and you have a proper setup. I had to come back because of COVID. And that's kind of got me thinking. I had this space in the backyard of my parents' house, which was just, as a storage room where they just kept like old books and utensils and stuff. And COVID drove me crazy. I kind of, dove into like all sorts of hobbies. I made like very, very random stuff, resin, woodwork, all sort of stuff. And then because again, ceramic needs to you need to have like the proper baking equipment for ceramics. Otherwise, you can't materialize it. Like you can't use it as a functional thing. So I didn't have that yet. So I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? So I thought, okay, there'll be a point where I can get baking equipment. Until then, let me just set up the studio. So I had this space where I was, bringing in like the local clay and just playing around and just getting a feel of what the material is. And then slowly it somehow turned out that I really liked the space. I didn't have to go to Bangalore and, go around, find a space, pay rent. Yeah, that's one more thing. I just had so much space, which a lot of people don't. And I thought I should just start with what I have. Let's just start slow, step by step. So then I started finding vendors where I could get clay, and then I bought a kiln. And slowly I'm like, okay, this is working. Like I can work from my studio. I don't have to travel to a city to make stuff. Like the pottery community is really good. Like we have like a lot of artists who help each other out. So I thought, okay, I should just, work from the space I have. And that's how it started. And then I just realized that there was nobody else doing pottery. People didn't know what it was to, have what is pottery. A lot of people, like even my grandmom, she's like, oh, you work with mud, like the potters in the village. And then I'm like, no, this is a little different than that. This is ceramics. So like I slowly started telling my family about it, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know something like this even existed." Like I thought that was just mud. It's much more. I got a wheel, I got like a kiln, and yeah, I started taking like small commissions, and I started making like really tiny stuffs. Because again, limited material. I thought, okay, just work with what you have. Like, try not to invest in too many things where you can't handle. So I started really like small and slowly figuring out how the flow is. And yeah, eventually here I am. Like, I have the entire setup, and I don't have to depend on anybody else for like material or, the firing and stuff like that. So I can make stuff by myself. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, with a decision like that, how do you engage with the opportunity cost? Am I going the wrong way? Am I making the wrong decision? Everybody seems to be going this one kind of path. So there's all of these like anxieties that crop up, right?
I think it's a mixture of everything. Like, it was a very organic process. I worked for like a resort. Like, I mean, it was like a very monotonous work where I would just entertain guests and, teach them how to make a piece. They were paying me, and I could, put all the money into my studio. That was like a good thing. But at the same time, it was making me hate the thing that I loved. It kind of got really stressful, but it also taught me how to interact with people. Like, it gave me the confidence to handle any person that walks in. I could immediately get to know whether they were actually interested in doing it or they just wanted it for the novelty of it. Oh, I just did pottery. It's an Instagram post.
Mm,
So
mm.
I could read people, and that kind of gave me like a real boost to handle my own stuff. So I was like, why am I putting so much effort to them? I can do the same for myself, and I could work on my studio and I can put a lot more effort. So that's when I thought, okay, it's high time I quit and start my own stuff. So while working for somebody, I learned what I could do for myself. That really helped. It was never like, oh, I'm going to start a studio and then it just happened, you know. So being in Madikeri, I didn't have a lot of people giving me like commission work because locally people didn't know. And there was no outlet. I'm a very kind of introverted person where I won't go tell people that, I do this. You want to see my work? No, I'm like, you ask me, I'll tell you what I do. It's
Mhm.
kind of that. So I started doing markets, pottery markets, where I could take my stuff and showcase in cities like in Bangalore, Goa, Hyderabad. The kind of reaction I got from my work was something that I was not expecting. So I learned a lot from making stuff and selling it to a customer. That's how I started slowly building contacts. The thing they don't teach you in art college is how to market your work. I struggled with marketing and selling. I didn't know how to price my stuff. That kind of was very hard for me, and I would always reach out to Gauri for help. If somebody comes and asks me, then like, oh, this piece is very nice. I'm like, just take it. I can't sell it to you. Just take it. That's where I was. And Gauri was like, no, you should charge them because you work hard for it. I'm like, no, it's okay. They can just take it, So so yeah, that's how I started taking like small commissions just to get confidence. Somebody tells me like a bizarre thing that they want, and I'll be like, this is interesting. Let me see. That's very exciting because people come up with the most random thing they want, and I'm so happy that I'm the person they're reaching out for, and they think I can do it. So
What are some things like that? What are some crazy
oh,
requests you've gotten?
I had a client who wanted bike earrings. I'm like, oh shit, that's complex. How do I do it? And I tried like different kind of stuff, and I finally made it. I like the challenge. It's not very boring or mundane where, okay, make a cup, make a plate, and, even if it's a cup or a plate, they'll be like, make it look like my dog. I'm like, yes, yes, I can do that.
So we got cups like dogs, biker earrings, desk pets. Tell me some more things. I want to make a lineup of the fun things you keep making.
I started making like heads of animals, like I don't know if you can see. There's like black buck right behind me. It's like this. I don't know if you can see.
That's so cute. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
like I like making animals. Like animals are something that I've always been into. So I thought, okay, it's like a study for me also.
So I feel like the phase of life really influences our work and creativity. And I know that you're recently married. So tell us a little bit about that. I've heard that your husband prices some of your stuff. I remember him saying that when he was in Tokyo the other day. And
Running joke among the potters who come for like pop-ups. They're like, I'm the potter and the spouses are the porters, you know? Like they carry the stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like I've always known him. It's not like I met him a couple of years ago and we got married and I'm like, yeah, I've known him for a really long time. It feels strangely comfortable. He helps me a lot in all these markets. He's the person who will interact with the customer. Like I said, I'm really bad at selling my own work. So he's the kind of person who would approach a stranger and be like, hey, you know what? You might find this interesting. So my wife does this and this and this. And he has like a folder in his phone with all my works and he kind of interacts like, hey, you have a restaurant? Oh, my wife does like cutlery. So if you're interested, maybe you can take a look at her work. And he's been handling all the calls and, all the pricing. I'm like so relieved that he's doing all the grunt work for me, and I'm just like, let me start, and I just
I
make
mean, it's
yeah.
like it's like you've married into a marketing department. That's phenomenal. I mean, ladies, gents, listen up. This is the way to do it. Marrying up doesn't always mean marrying up financially. It means marrying a business partner, man.
He just it was not something that we decided. It just happened. Time it happened, we were like, oh, this worked.
This is such a detour from what we're speaking about, but Maitli, when you mentioned, we're all in the same age. We are exactly the same age,
are
the three
we
of us.
all 1996, by the way?
We are. And so what
Um,
is awesome for me is I've always found this so cool, okay? I'm like, I have two best friends, and then both their birthdays are a 6. Did you know this?
oh, hey, I wanted to
No,
ask. So we're 6. I love the number 6. Oh, that's so cool. That makes so much sense. Wait,
Na-
so February 6th, April 14th, and
January 6th. We just like
January
you
6th.
You
We're a
guys are
month apart.
exactly a month apart.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I didn't know. I
And
remember. I
I'm the
didn't.
youngest.
The middle one. I've never been a middle in my life, so this is so new for me. Does that make you a Capricorn?
Yes.
Okay.
She didn't know this at all. Wow. Okay. But Bona, actually, that means, oh my God.
Yeah,
We are
don't say,
recording. I'm
don't say
saying it.
I've had
We are
enough
recording.
people, you know, say it, but I mean, yeah.
We are recording, ladies and gentlemen. This episode is being recorded on the 21st of December, which means we are but days away, exactly
I
15
know.
days away before our lovely guest turns 30. How are we
It's
feeling? How are
happening. Oh
you?
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel a thing.
But you get there first, so your opinion is
Yeah.
most
I'll
important.
tell you how it goes when I get there. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God.
On
Are you
that
nervous?
panic attack, or I'd have like an epiphany, or I don't know. Like, let's just wait. There's still 15 days. That's how I've been, treating it.
Yeah.
It's still a long time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
For me, it's been all about making the most of 29, which means like just trying to cramp as much as I want. Like I finally colored my hair this year. I never did that before. Like I wanted to do like it all, and I have that pressure still. Make sure the Christmas is good, the New Year's good, like all of it. So I just somehow, that whole pressure thing is really up my alley. But not everyone is like that. Gauri has a whole other thing. She's been saying she's been 30 for the past 5 years. So
Man, I have been waiting for my real age to catch up with the space that I'm in my headspace. I mean, think about it, right? I feel like my grandmother's always said this, that I was born a grandmother, and Buona's story really exemplifies that. Like always giving nonsense gyan, saying, oh, this is
wow.
our journey in life. I'm telling you,
Can you
my life
imagine?
is gonna begin when I turn 40. So I'm actually 10 years minus. 30, I'm super excited. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna have my like walk in the door, hair flying, slow motion entry. I feel like 30 is my year. I'm super excited about it.
I have a question for all of us. How old do we feel though? Like how old do you feel you are? What is your don't
I feel
give me
like it's
80 and
really
all. God.
it's really unfair for you to ask that right after I said I've been 30 my whole life. Like, no.
Yeah, but I want to know how have you felt right now? How old do you feel?
Like 22.
There it is. What about you, Buena?
Same. I don't feel like I'm 30. Definitely. Like, I feel like I'm much younger, like mentally, but 30 is just a number. I'll probably feel old if I'm feeling less active and, not able to do what I want to do, but I still can. So, yay. Yeah.
Okay, Maitli, let me guess yours. You're 3.
Oh, very funny. I was like, I had a number that came to my mind very like purely, and I'm not sure if I should say it because it's like too young, and then all our audience will be like, I knew it, she's such a
Say
child.
it.
I feel like definitely like an 18. I don't know. I feel like 18 to 22, okay? Hey. Because we grew up reading Twilight, and then all these cool people kind of froze at that 21 space, and I feel like, yes, that's where I want to stop. I used to say crazy things to my friends like, this is when my life can end now. I'm fine now. I don't want people to see me older than this. Or like 36 tops, not more than that.
Oh, Buona, so Maitli and I, as you know, we recently met up like a monthish ago. I visited it in Japan, and we were like, I think about 2 solid hours of just talking about this weird wrinkle under your face here. And
It
so we're
happens
like,
sometimes.
when did this start to happen? Where there's like this weird line under your cheek, and and it's like, so I feel like there's a point where the aches and stuff kicks in for women. Of course, we've got our own, menstrual related pain, so you don't really associate it too much to age. But a line on your face, that is age. Right? What's yours? What's your giveaway? If you say I have perfect skin, you can leave the podcast now.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I don't spend as much time in front of the mirror grooming myself because I think I'm past that point where I want to look good or whatever. I'm like, just be healthy, okay? Just be healthy. That's what I'm looking at. But most of the time, I am a messy person. I am covered in mud. There's clay splashing on my face. My phone is like cast in clay now.
I
I
mean,
I,
you're
I
getting exfoliated, as far as I can tell.
I'm sure clay is great for you.
I think it's the weather. My skin chapping. You can't see it, Ashte.
I think we're at the part of the podcast where you can ask us a question. Things like, why are you like this? Or what's your problem? This is the right place to.
Is that thing? So, to the both of you, what is one thing that you've, taken from each other? Like, what's something that you look up to Maithili for, and what does Maithili look up to Gauri for? Like, I want to know.
Easy.
That's
You can go
such a good
first.
question. And I think I just love that you've given us an opportunity where Maithili can tell people what she learned from me. I love that.
But I am ready. But are you ready?
Oh, go.
It's very easy for me. For me, it's boldness. I think Gauri's always been confident, and we've always done things in pairs and threes and fours and stuff in school. And I'll have like a whole bunch of cool ideas, but I won't have execution, or I won't, like, even singing. I would love singing with her because she's kind of got lead. She's got, power to move forward. Like, she's got voice. She will say the things she wants to say. And I don't really do that, but it's always been inspiring to be around that type of energy that's so somehow sure of itself. So boldness is the one
Agree.
for me.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Oh my God, the reason I was like, I'm going to go second is because I couldn't pick between two. And then as I was thinking about it, I realized it's actually the same thing. And funnily, it's boldness as well and fluidity. So exactly what she's saying, this thing of like,
Interesting.
this thing of like systems, whatever. So for me, like I have this way of like, I had this thing of structure. Life has to go step 1, step 2, step 3. It's obvious. Maithili has a boldness of just, I don't care. I want to do this. I will, And so she's taken risks in her life, to me, that are terrifying, but she's made it work. Like moved to Japan, all the different kind of work she was doing, the kind of like courage that you have to make a life without, like, she didn't go to family there, right? She started her life on her own, etc. Worked all of these different jobs, and now she's at a place in her life where she's like thriving. I mean, no bad juju, people, but she's thriving, and she's made that completely for herself in a so-called non-structured way from how my brain works, right? So to me, boldness or courage, in fact, in another form, is what I absolutely love about her, and her ability to be fluid and break break systems. To me, that's been really inspiring. That's actually a really good question, Bon. I've never even thought of that. That's so good. That's
Something that
so good.
I want to know what my rival is up to, huh?
That's it.
Honestly, like I don't know how much of this will go into the podcast. This is kind of, at this point for me, it's a video call. But it's like I have always said, like, you guys are so crazy similar, and like I just love that this, like, my relationship with both of you. My favorite thing about it is that it's founded on creativity, on making. Making what? That's where the paths diverge. Who cares? But we make, and I love that we make. I think it's so cool. I love you, idiots.
So, like, seeing this, what comes to mind is like we've seen such different sides of your creativity too, Gauri. Like, what creativity means to you with these different friendships in your life. And we really went back with like the candle and little chapatis moments, and like dressing up the dogs and picking up the seeds. I think it was like such a trip back down memory lane. But Bhuwana, thank you so much. Like, we would have never heard this if we weren't with you virtually in your like little clay studio in Coorg. So thanks for hanging out with us and sharing these stories, which we would have otherwise never heard. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. This is what we usually do, me and Gauri, when we like look back. It felt like one of those days where we just chat. So this was very comfortable, and it felt so nice, to share it with Maithili, because I know you and Gauri's friend, and I've always been like, hey, okay, holidays, Gauri is mine. Okay, school time, Gauri is yours, Maithili. So, that's it. Like, you don't get any holiday time with
And
Gauri when I'm around and that. So
and
now I'm
now
doing
exactly,
that.
and now we're adults and we've learned how to share her, right?
Do I have any say in this?
No, I think I gained a really good friend through Gauri. Like, I've never really met you. I've just heard of you so much. So I built up this idea of Maithili in my head. And yeah, I think we all met a couple of years ago. And that's when I'm like, oh, now I know why Gauri is friends with Maithili. She's so nice. Oh I think I just built it up in my head too much.
I also always heard about you, and she's the summer vacation best friend. Her always creating cool things. Like it was Gauri's artsy side, which I never really, we weren't crafty and artsy the way you guys were. We were like the music kids. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me it was like, yeah, who is this friend? Why does she come back with all these great stories every time? But yeah, and then we just like sing. But I was really excited when you guys did visit me in Japan, both of you separately. So you guys have kind of come and seen this side of the world too, and we're all like in each other's lives a little bit now, which is so
Yeah.
different from how we grew up, clearly, because we had such separate lives. It's like what's the whole Hannah Montana thing, like with the whole double life kind of thing? It
Best
kind of
of
feels
You
like
get the
that.
best of both worlds.
You get the
Yeah.
best. Yes, you get the best of both worlds now.
Just want to thank all of you, our listeners, for tuning into this episode. I hope it was as fun for you guys as it was for us. Shooting, there were points when we didn't even realize that this is a podcast and we're just chatting with our friends, which is in effect precisely what this podcast is about. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you tune in to our next episode where we chat with another friend about parenting, about writing, about having existential conversations with a 5-year-old. So please tune in and see you next Wednesday. Bye bye.